Hi everybody, I'm Josh. I am CEO of Stuff.io and very excited today to walk through what Stuff.io is and what it's going to do. So before we talk through exactly what we're doing with the platform, first I want to address kind of a core issue of what we're solving. So if we look at Web 2 versus Web 3 and how this applies to digital assets. So Web 2 is a licensing model, while Web 3 is an ownership model. So what does this mean? So in a Web 2 sense, what happens is all digital media is licensed. So this means as an end consumer, you don't actually own any of the digital media that you purchase. So all of the ebooks and audiobooks and music or videos that you purchase, what you're actually purchasing is a license to view or listen or read the contents of those assets. You're not actually purchasing the asset. So also in this Web 2, this is a very centralized process. Retailers that are centralized are the distributors for this licensed content, and they control the licenses that they operate through the publishers and labels and studios. What Web3 allows us to do, and blockchain technology and decentralization with use of smart contracts, it opens up what is true digital ownership and a layer of transparency. And that does not exist in the centralized system. So what ownership allows us to do as end consumers is we truly own those digital assets. So when we purchase a digital good over here, there's actual true ownership. This did not exist in the Web 2 world, and it does in Web 3, and that's a big difference. So when we look at the sum total of this ecosystem as it stands right now, somewhere around 48 million users have at least $1 in Bitcoin. What we're trying to go after are the billions of users who purchase digital assets. So what they currently purchase are books and music and video. And so we started with books and we created book.io to focus on this vertical to begin with. The reason is that digital books by far and away are the largest singular digital good that a normal person might purchase. There are over 1.1 billion people that purchase ebooks and audiobooks. It's the biggest single digital item, biggest digital media item that anybody purchases. Most of music is streaming, and most of video is streaming as well, although there are a few instances where you can purchase, but if you purchase, you're purchasing licensed content and it can be taken away. Okay, so with book.io, we launched in July of 2022. And this was after a preceding year of that, 2021, myself and my co-founder put together all the structure and the idea behind handling all digital assets. So in July of 2022, we launched the first asset on book.io, and it was the Gutenberg Bible. And it was the 1450s something edition of the Gutenberg Bible. It was all in Latin, and it's about 10 times the size of a regular book. It included video, it included audio, it included music, all of the core elements. Oh, and also high resolution artwork from the original printed version. So all of the core elements, it was the primer asset that contains everything about functionality that we have created. And I'll talk more about the actual technology. So to date, book.io has minted over 250 plus book titles, and over 250,000 units that are non-fungible, and 9 billion fungible units. And so I want to break down the technology behind this and what makes this possible, but really the core issue we're trying to address is that there's a big dividing line here, and a reason why Web 2 licensed content has not moved over into this Web 3 world is that everything in the Web 2 side has a digital rights management layer to protect the IP from professional creators. So from professional musicians and artists and filmmakers, all of their content that they're dependent on making money, they have not migrated over to Web 3 because the current systems for Web 3 have just put everything public on chain, and they can't do that. They can't give away all of their content. They have to have a layer of protection so that only the person who purchases the content has the right and access to see and interact with that content. Okay, so I'm going to break down the core technology of how we create a decentralized DRM that allows rights protected content to exist in a Web3 world. So traditionally what happened in the past in a centralized system, a file was created, be that text or audio or video, and then that's sent to a centralized retailer, and then they distribute licenses to end users, and those users can then look at that content, but you can't do anything with it. If you purchase this content, if I purchase an ebook or an audiobook or a movie or a digital game, I can't send it to somebody else. I can't resell it if I'm done with that asset. I'm stuck with it in my library forever, or until this retailer decides I no longer have access, or I unsubscribe from that service, or whatever may happen. I don't actually own this asset. So what we did instead was we said, let's take the entire asset and we will break it apart into tons of little pieces, and we take every one of those little shards and we put that inside of, we encrypt it, and we store all of those pieces in decentralized storage. So all of these little bits exist in decentralized storage, and then when you purchase an asset, either a fungible asset or a non-fungible asset, you are then able to open in our media viewer, and it will stream in these contents, and it will decrypt them, and then it will rebuild them so that you can have access to your content, whether it's text or photos or video or music or audio. So this core technology we call decentralized encrypted assets. For short, we call it DEAs. And we can create DEAs that are both fungible and that are non-fungible. So fungible meaning that there are no differences between them. So in a physical sense, this would have been on the book side like a run of print books. All of the books are identical, or DVDs, all the DVDs are identical. Everything in that is created as the same. And then we have non-fungible side as well. And so the non-fungible side, this would be more of collectibles, ones that have a uniqueness between each one of those. So a DEA could be either one of those types of assets. They can be limited in numbers. And really what we introduced with this entire thing into a digital economy that did not exist before, in the licensed economy where a source file comes in and there's basically an unlimited amount, is that we introduce the law of supply and demand into digital ownership. So there's a finite supply of all of these, and because there's a finite supply, we can then derive rarity from it and a lot of other really cool things. So this is kind of the underlying technology that exists to power the ecosystem, and this works for all media assets, not just books, but music and movies and video as well. So very excited to announce Stuff.io and talk about exactly what it means and how it interacts with the existing property that we have, Book.io. So Stuff.io is very much going to be our umbrella company. So within that umbrella, we will have multiple properties. One of those properties is book.io. But this allows us to unlock and do other things like music and video. We can create other future entities inside of here for things like documents or coupons. Stuff is the encompassing entity for all of these different types of assets, which all operate and use DEA technology. It doesn't work just for books, it works for all of these items. So very similar to how an Amazon is an umbrella company and it has individual companies within it like Kindle and Audible and Prime Video and all these different subsequent ones. Stuff.io will be our encompassing entity, and we'll have these different media types housed inside different units inside of it. And so specific to the Stuff.io launch, what we're doing next week is we're launching the very first asset, which will be a video series about us creating this as an example to show how the media can render, how we can put these different assets together. So Stuff.io will launch with a collectible, a fungible version that's non-collectible and a non-fungible version that's collectible. So by that I mean the collectible version will have 10,000 units, just like our Gutenberg, and this will be our Genesis asset for Stuff.io, and this will be on Cardano. The fungible version will be time-based, and it will have a very much like I said, it's all the units are the same. This will launch on Base and be our first ever asset on Base as a fungible token. So there's definitely different properties between the two of them. The non-fungible version have 10,000 different unique cover art for it. The fungible just has a single cover art. And so what we're trying to demonstrate, and what we've demonstrated all along, and how we've deployed to multiple different blockchains. We started with Cardano, and then we deployed to Ethereum, and then to Polygon, and then to Algorand, and now we're deploying to Base. And so when you look across all of these different types of media assets, and you look at books and music and video, there's literally millions of different creators. They'll all have different ideas about why they want to do something in a particular way, and there's different blockchains that will meet those individual needs, and there's pros and cons to using different blockchains. There's different speeds and different settlement speeds. There's different gas prices. There's different communities and liquidity. So there's a variety of different reasons. So our approach has always been to approach it as a multi-chain project, because we want to serve all of the creators and allow them the choice to deploy. So we're choosing to, in this instance, deploy to two different chains and deploy the Genesis asset in two different ways to show the technology and how it works. Okay, now we're going to talk about the book token. So within the book.io ecosystem, we had a token called book. And the mechanics of that and the reason for it existing was that 50% of that total token supply is dedicated to what we called read to earn. So in this model, over a 50-year time span, there was a release distribution that followed effectively a halvening schedule, just like Bitcoin. Adding more rewards to users reading early, and then stair-stepping that down so that rewards became fewer and more spread out over time. So we're changing this model slightly. The total token allocation is still fixed at 10 billion. The way that the tokens are allocated are identical. We're not introducing a new token at all. Instead, the book token will be renamed to Stuff. This is so we can utilize a singular token inside of the ecosystem that will work not just for books, but for music and video as well, and anything else too. So we're going to call this the consume to earn system. It will still be the same 50% of the token supply. Nothing will change functionally, and we'll roll out this in a couple of phased steps. So phase 1 is that book will be used on stuff.io as a payment. For certain assets, you can use book to buy. Second, we will rename book to stuff, the token. And book.io will continue as is. It will continue to grow and develop and be focused on authors and on readers and on ebooks and audiobooks and expanding that entire ecosystem because it has a tremendous growth potential and tremendous number of assets that we can add to it. What happens here in renaming is that the original contract doesn't change at all. It's unchangeable. We can't change it. So if you looked at the contract on chain, you would still see it listed as book. However, the Cardano registry is a centralized system, and much like when Polygon changed its poly-based token to Matic so that it removed confusion, we will change the metadata such that the token will just resolve and everybody's book will then be stuff token. So third, we're adding a token bridge, and we will bridge the token and we will open up the bridge so that everyone has the opportunity, if they wish, to bridge their token to other blockchains. So following in line with our multi-chain strategy and approach on the asset side, we want to do the same thing with the token, make it possible for everyone to allocate those. So what it does for us also is it allows the opportunity for token holders to participate in other liquidity markets, not just in a single blockchain liquidity market. And then fourth, the last thing, with the consume to earn model, we are changing the distribution of the consume to earn. So this will be 2 times as long, so it will be over a 100-year span, and then it will follow a function curve that is has some amount of rewards to begin with. It peaks after a certain amount of time and goes out over 100 years. And so I'll talk about this a little more in depth. So I want to talk about the token distribution. So currently the token is a Cardano native token, and when we open the bridge, it will allow that to be bridged to EVM-based chains. So when we launch the consume to earn system, and it will be comprised of rewarding all books and all music and all video, we are going to add a significant amount of pressure to the token because it will be used across all these verticals, not just users that read books. And additionally, putting that over a 100-year time span increases or decreases the amount that goes out in each interval. So the way the system will function is just how we had outlined in the read to earn system and the Book.io white paper is every 4 hours, a distribution will be awarded to all users who consumed media during that 4-hour time period and will be equally divided. So in this model, the function that we have will follow a curve similar to this. It will peak at 5 years and actually 1 week. And so when this happens, the maximum amount of rewards that within this system, which is the total opposite distribution as far as adding creating any inflationary effect to the circulating supply. The maximum amount here is 54,000 tokens in that 4-hour reward. So we built it specifically like this and not as the halvening schedule, because the halvening cycle which I think worked fantastic, obviously, for Bitcoin. It is now well over 10 years old, and we're taking kind of the best component of it, and that's sort of this backside, but we're able to also front load it for what's going on now with our user base and holders. So what we're able to do is push down the amount so it doesn't start so high, and then that gives us a 5-year growth window as we're adding new users to scale up as we're onboarding new users. So with our goal being having the access to all the people who are consuming this, our goal would be having 1 billion users or multiple billions of users using this. And when you look specifically at each one of these as well, there's multiple millions of titles in every single one of these categories. And if you multiply that by units, you're talking about billions and billions of assets trading on chain and people consuming those. So a math example would be if we had 1 million users active at the 5-year mark, and they were all competing for this 54,000 allotment every 4 hours. That means on average, they would be competing for 0.054 stuff tokens, right? At 10 million, obviously we add another zero, and then you can see quickly how scarce that reward is. Now, our anticipation and our hope, of course, is that the value scales up as more people come into the system and we start to achieve these larger user numbers, so that the sum total reward that someone is receiving is a good value for them, and they are able to then use that as a discount mechanism or participate in all the other utility side of the social side of what we're building to connect with creators, all the other utility that they can take advantage of with the system. But at its core, this is how it would work, and then the entire system itself and the function that derives how this is distributed would be put inside of a DAO to be managed, so that the DAO could then decide if and at what points more supply is added into this, so that this could actually extend beyond just the 100-year mark. So we feel like this is a very fair, equitable way that holders could participate in this. We could hand over the keys from a governance perspective at a certain point once we get all of it live and functioning, and then allow the community to decide how these are distributed. Initially, we will weight books at a higher weight because it is a very active way to consume content, and we want to encourage people to read books. We feel that societies that are better educated have less violent crime and higher GDP output. So we see a lot of focus in amplifying the reward cycle for books. Not to say that that music and video wouldn't participate. They're just more passive and obviously a different type of media. So I think what's interesting is once we get to a governance standpoint, there could be a lot of different ideas and a lot of different ways this could be implemented. But as far as right now, this is the plan, and extending this and creating this type of a structure and a model so that we can grow over time and protect holders as we do so. Let's talk about what we believe and wrap up. So Stuff.io, we believe in creators and consumers. We believe that creators should be free to earn money from the things they create. And the current Web 2 system and licensing really prevents and stifles a lot of that. A lot of times creators are trying to find other ways to make money outside of just the pure art and things that they are creating. Additionally, in these centralized systems, they're unable to communicate directly with consumers, and we want to empower that. And Web3 and technology really enables that level of transparency and ability for them to connect. On the consumer side, we believe that consumers should own the digital things that they buy. They shouldn't falsely buy something in a licensing system thinking that they own it when it says buy, and then find out that that media was removed or the contents in it were changed, and that they're unable to send it to a friend or to sell it when they're done with it. And we think that across all these things and stuff with books and music and movies, that there are millions of titles and assets here. And when we multiply that by units, we're talking about billions of assets on chain that are constantly trading around and reselling and getting loaned out and a ton of opportunity here. And this will equate to billions of users as well, because they're going to demand that they own these things. And when they have the choice between no ownership and no freedom or agency of those assets, and the creators also have the choice that they could create these assets and use them as a means to not only make money but connect with consumers, I think this is a much stronger model for both creators and consumers. Hey everybody, we're super excited about this next phase of the company as we continue to expand. The last 2 years have been amazing. It's incredible to have this growing community worldwide who really fundamentally understand this idea that we don't own our digital stuff. And special thanks to the OGs as well. We would not be here without your support. Launching Stuff.io is a critical step for us in scaling up to these other media types, which is not only going to have a profound impact on us as consumers, but also to creators. It's going to allow them so much more freedom and connection to their audience. And I think this is the catalyst really for us to scale not just to millions of users, but ultimately to billions of users. Very excited about upgrading the token and expanding its utility and to all these other media types. And we'll have several upcoming opportunities, Twitter Spaces, AMAs, that we can answer all your questions. And just thank you guys so much for listening, and look forward to the launch next week of Stuff.io.